Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Chimera's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, this card is not one that I expected to see, but I probably should have expected it actually. A legendary land with Mount Doom. Yeah, this is one of the cards that we saw in the first look, or whatever Wizards is calling it, which is like the pre-spoiler season, because Lord of the Rings doesn't come out until June. Regardless, this is a very exciting card, and one that I think could be considered by many to be, well, a new staple, especially for Rakdos decks out there. This card is definitely one that is pretty unique. We really haven't seen anything quite like it, and it's one I think that can make a big impact on a game in a lot of different situations. So let's jump into it. So yeah, Mount Doom is a legendary land. It can tap and you pay 1 life to add black or red. So there is no way around that. You are not, don't have an option to, tap for a colorless or whatnot. We'll talk about some somewhat similar lands here in a bit. But yeah, you are going to be paying 1 life to utilize this. In some decks, that can actually be, not a terrible thing to lose life. But again, 1 life is really not all that big of a deal for the most part. Anyways, pay 1 black, red, tap. It's going to deal 1 damage to each opponent. So you can actually, share the pain with your opponents as well. And of course, there are plenty of ways to take even more advantage of that in certain commanders that absolutely love pinging effects like that as well. But the big thing, the exciting thing about this card that is very unique, and again, we really haven't seen other effects like this one on a land for the most part. Pay 5, a black and a red, tap, sacrifice Mount Doom in a legendary artifact, choose up to 2 creatures, then destroy the rest. Activate only as a sorcery. So first up, this is incredibly flavorful. Again, if you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, yeah, you know exactly what's happening here. And I guess I couldn't really spoil it. I feel like everyone's heard of the ending of Lord of the Rings, but I won't say it anyways. But yeah, basically that kind of happens. So that's a little beside the point. But yes, flavorful, but also incredibly effective and impactful, because in this land, you have, mana fixing, essentially. Again, for Rakdos decks, you get both your colors right away. Yes, it does cost life to do so, but again, not many lands can, essentially enter untapped and allow you to utilize multiple kinds of mana, essentially, right away. So there you go. Yes, there is a price to it. Then you also have an ability to ping down your opponents, which can be very effective. And of course, again, there are other ways to take advantage of that and make the most of that. But also, again, a board wipe on a land. And one that can be kind of one-sided, essentially. Now, there is a requirement for this, again, and you need to keep that in mind, because if you don't have any legendary artifacts in your deck, or a way to potentially make one, and we'll talk about something here in a bit that can help you out with that, obviously you can't really utilize that portion of this. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't use this land. It still has, some efficiency in other decks that can be used, but the decks that can really make the most of it, obviously, can utilize that board wipe threat, essentially. And again, have that one-sided, essentially, effect where you're just like, hey, okay, I take out all the creatures except these 2. My 2 creatures are going to stay on the board. All your creatures are gone. My land is what I have to sacrifice to do so, and a legendary artifact. And now I'm going to decimate you with my creatures, and your armies are gone. So yeah, this card has a lot of potential. There are a good amount of decks out there that are definitely going to want to consider this one. And again, it can lead to some very spicy plays in a game. It can help you out early, can help you out often, and it can help you finish out a game as well. And yeah, there's not too many lands where you can say that about. So yeah, Mount Doom, I think, is going to be a pretty popular card. It is a mythic, so I can see this one being quite expensive. So we shall see kind of where this one ends up. Now, that being said, let's talk about some other incredibly popular Rakdos lands currently and kind of how this stacks up. So first up, Blood Crypt, one of our shock lands, a swamp mountain that you can have it enter the battlefield untapped if you pay 2 life. And yeah, basically when you do that, yeah, you are paying the 2 life ahead of time for this one. Kind of like Mount Doom, you'd be paying, over time, but probably more than 2 life throughout the game. And yeah, with this one, this is a swamp mountain, so yes, you can, search for it with certain effects. There is that difference as well. I don't think this, Mountain Doom is going to be more, popular than a Blood Crypt. I'm definitely not saying that. Smoldering Marsh, also a swamp mountain, so it has that advantage. And it's going to enter the battlefield, tap unless you control 2 more basic lands. You can meet that requirement a lot of the time as well. So this one might not even cost you any life, essentially, to actually get out untapped. Now, obviously, this one, and the other one can't, ping your opponents or, be utilized as a board wipe. But still, these lands are quite effective. Dragon Skull Summit. Again, very effective as well, but actually not a swamp or a mountain. That being said, enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp or a mountain. So if you control one of those, enters untapped, and again, no life needs to be paid. Next up, we've got Luxury Suite, which is going to enter the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. Yeah, you're playing Commander, so chances are very likely, unless the other 2 opponents, are gone and it's just a one-on-one situation, this is going to enter the battlefield untapped. So yeah, early game, this is going to basically always enter the battlefield untapped. A very good card in Commander. Rakdos Carnarium, a bounce land. Bounce lands are quite popular. They can be very effective in a lot of situations. Temple of Malice, a scry land. Also very popular in Commander. Can be very effective and impactful in a game. Enters the battlefield tapped, yes. So it's kind of like a regular, tap land. Taps for, 2 colors. And it does have you scry 1 when enters the battlefield. Hence why it's called a scry land. So yeah, some extra card selection there. That being said, again, no chance for the bounce land or the scry land to enter the battlefield untapped unless you have, another card that makes it do so. And yeah, Mountain Doom allows you to utilize mana right away. Again, can help you ping opponents and also can be a board wipe. So, I think it's gonna live. Okay, I guess I should say because the price is definitely gonna impact this as well. If price were no issue, yeah, it could be more popular than these. It probably won't be just because of price. Now, the final Rakdos land I want to bring up, though, is Sulfur Springs, which is very similar to this new land. This one has tap for a colorless or tap for red or black that deals 1 damage to you. So this one does give you an out. It gives you an option just to utilize that colorless mana when you don't need, a black or red mana. So therefore, you can get around taking a good amount of damage throughout the game. That being said, obviously, this one does not have any way for you to actually ping your opponents or be utilized as a board wipe. So, yeah, again, if price weren't an issue, I'd see Mountain Doom probably seeing more play than this one. But Mountain Doom itself, again, because, it is an iconic place in Lord of the Rings. There's a lot of Lord of the Rings fans out there that are probably going to want this card. And again, it's a very effective card. I can see it being quite pricey, and that definitely impacting where it ends up. But again, only time will tell. That being said, there are some somewhat similar lands outside of these that we can compare this land to for other reasons. And that would be a card like Ondu Inversion, which is an MDFC land, and there are very few lands out there that are basically board wipes. And again, there is a requirement for this brand new one. Again, I will mention that again with Mountain Doom. Hey, you need a legendary artifact. If you don't have a legendary artifact, you're not going to be able to destroy all the things that you want to destroy. That being said, Ondu Inversion is flexible in a different way. It is a sorcery on the front for 8 mana in total. Going to destroy all non-land permanents, so destroying even more. Again, not a one-sided board wipe like Mountain Doom can be, and the other side does enter the battlefield tapped, and you'd have to pick one or the other essentially. So yeah, when it comes to actually, efficiency, Mountain Doom probably has it there, but again, it does have a steeper requirement. This one has a giant mana requirement, which I guess Mountain Doom technically has, but again, if you put it on the battlefield, you can still utilize it, whereas Ondu Inversion, if you play the land side, unless you can bounce it back to your hand, you can't utilize it. Another board wipe land that you can utilize on the battlefield, though, is Blast Zone, but this one works in a different way. It enters with a charge counter on it. Can tap right colors. You can pay XX and tap, put X charge counters on it. Can pay 3 to tap and sacrifice it, destroy each non-land permanent with mana value equal to the number of charge counters on Blast Zone. This one, yeah, you can pay a good amount of mana into it to get charge counters on it. You can also proliferate, etc., get more counters on it in different ways. That being said, when it comes to being a board wipe, this one's very specific on what it's going to be taking out, right? It's going to take out everything essentially at a certain amount of mana value, which of course, if you utilize it properly and you're lucky on what your opponents have out, you can get rid of some pretty key permanents, a lot of key permanents that happen to have the exact same mana value while maybe leaving your stuff untouched. That being said, Mountain Doom is a bit easier to ensure that you're essentially having, again, a one-sided board wipe in a way. Obviously, this one can deal with, any kind of non-land permanent. Mountain Doom only deals with creatures, and this one doesn't have a steep, requirement, essentially, of having to sacrifice something else very specific, like a legendary artifact. But this one probably is a bit more mana-intensive if you're going to have to put a good amount of charge counters on this, too. So there are some trade-offs to that. Overall, though, not a lot of lands out there can actually even do, what a board wipe does. So it's just interesting to see another iteration. Now, when it comes to legendary artifacts out there that are quite popular and used in a lot of decks that you can essentially, chuck into Mountain Doom and utilize as your sacrifice, Bolus Citadel is definitely one of them. Can provide you a ton of value throughout the game. Playing cards basically off the top of your library for free. Well, for life, but for free. Mox Opal, basically, any of these kind of opals that are legendary, essentially. Hey, if you got a good amount of artifacts in your deck, this is kind of like a free mana rock. Blacklighter Forge, if you got a Voltron deck, you probably have a good amount of equipment in it, including maybe this one, legendary artifact equipment, +1/+1 for each land you control. So yeah, there are definitely decks out there that have more legendary artifacts than others, and that could utilize this in an effective way and not completely ensure that they're going to be able to utilize that, although there are definitely decks out there that can, but decks that can say, okay, in a panic mode, I might be able to utilize this as an extra board wipe just in case. And another way to ensure that you can, even if you don't actually have a legendary artifact in your deck, is with something like Liquid Metal Torque. This can be somewhat sneaky. It's a fantastic mana rock, very efficient, 2 mana, taps for a colorless, but also tap target non-land permanent becomes an artifact to other types until end of turn. So with this, essentially you can guarantee that you can activate Mount Doom as long as you have the mana for it because, well, you got a commander, right? Every commander deck has a commander. And with your commander, even if it's not an artifact, you can turn it into an artifact. So it's going to be a legendary artifact that you can sacrifice to Mount Doom by activating this. So again, there are certain sneaky ways that you can utilize that, and yeah, certain commanders that might work better with it. Speaking of which, one of the first commanders that came to my mind for Mount Doom, which actually just very, fitting, I guess, Mount Doom, Mogus, God of Slaughter, Doom, Slaughter. Yeah, but yeah, group slug decks like this one can definitely utilize a card like this. Mogus is a 7/5 indestructible god. If you don't have, enough devotion, it's not a creature, but you probably will. And also at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, Mogus can deal 2 damage to that player unless they sacrifice a creature. So more and more pain for your opponents throughout the game. You're going to have a lot of other group slug type effects that punish your opponents for a variety of things. And yes, Mount Doom is also another way that you can do that, where you can ping your opponents down with that. And keep in mind, of course, if you are able to activate, that board wipe essentially from Mount Doom, you don't even have to pick Mogus as one of the, creatures that you are saving, because Mogus is indestructible. So that's another way to essentially get around that, and another way to really take advantage of that. So yeah, make sure you keep in mind that for indestructible commanders. Next up, Florian. Yeah, this is another great group slug commander, one that can really take advantage of the amount of damage that you are dealing to your opponents, or amount of life lost, I should say. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, look at the top X cards of your library. X the total amount of life your opponents lost this turn. You exile one of them, the rest go on your library, and you can play that exiled card this turn. Basically like a mini tutor off the top of your library based on how much pain you are causing your opponents. And now you've got a land that can help increase that pain again. You can just utilize that, and if you've got 3 opponents, right, hey, 3 damage, that's not nothing, right? An extra 3 damage to add to that essentially amount of life you're going to have your opponents lose. You can dig even deeper, getting cards off the top. And yes, again, if you've got, your legendary artifact that you can go grab for that, so you can set yourself up for that board wipe, great. And speaking of a legendary artifact, well, hey, if your commander is actually a legendary artifact that can utilize Mount Doom, great. Cody Vociferous Codex. Why don't you just chuck a book into Mount Doom, basically, right? You're just like, okay, Cody, let's walk over here. Boop. Goodbye, Cody. Goodbye, board. So yeah, there are legendary artifact commanders obviously out there. They do meet that requirement of being a legendary artifact. So sure, sacrifice them to Mount Doom to wipe the board. Yeah, just having kind of like not a guarantee. I will not say guarantee, because obviously you're not always guaranteed to have your commander out in play, but kind of like, a guarantee be able to, be able to utilize this board wipe on, a land can be very crucial. And again, just even having the threat of it on the board can be enough to stop your opponents from, making certain plays. So yeah, definitely an option for this commander as well. Overall, a very interesting card. One, again, that I think is going to really impact Rakdos decks out there. And again, I will say, price, it's going to be quite crazy, I think. So yeah, maybe it's only going to impact certain ones that can afford it. Obviously, definitely not going to be a budget buy for me. Not going to be a card that I can probably ever fit in any of my decks, because I highly doubt this card will ever be less than $1. In fact, I can pretty much guarantee that right now. But yeah, we shall see where the price on this one ends up. But regardless, what are your thoughts on this card? What do you think about this one? Again, a legendary land that can help you, fix your mana right away. It can help you deal damage to your opponents. It can also be a board wipe. Again, we rarely see lands that are board wipes. Love the design, love the flavor of this card. I'd love to hear what you think about it as well. And let me know what you think about where this card's going to end up price-wise. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. And also, make sure you're staying tuned to this channel. Again, you never know when spoiler season apparently is going to hit these days. And with that, today's episode is coming to a close. So yeah, now it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts are. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.